got with it. Do it cause I love it and I stuck with it. We ain't with the subbing in the cut with it. Please none of the talks, I heard enough of it. Like, what you gonna do, where you at, who you with? You ain't really about this, don't talk about it. Really on the move, on the map, never slip. Keep your hands to your lips, don't talk about it. Real eyes, real lives, all the time. Stand on it, if we said it, we don't walk around it. Loose lips, sink ships, red cup, blue strips, new phone, who this? No, we don't allow it. Really on go, I don't know what's an off day. Now we on road, keep on smoking in the hallway. Now we got...
Hello. Well, good evening, good people. Sorry, we having technical difficulties at this time. But you know, the show must go on. The show must go on. I am the one and only. You know who it is, what it do, what it be like, what it is. It's your boy, aka, oh my God, aka, I know he just didn't, aka, what did he say? AKA your boy DA. Y'all already know. We about to have a good show today. We have a great show today. We're not gonna let the church people say, we're not gonna let the devil stop us from blessing somebody today. The only problem with that is I don't have no control. So I can't bring our special guest on. Well, I'm gonna sit here and talk until we get it figured out. So the two guests we got coming on have a couple decades of experience when it comes to when it comes to recruiting for the medical field. Lucretia and Julian. Did you move? We good? We good? All right, I'm gonna keep going. So the premise behind this is are you here? Blink twice if you're okay. Oh, I guess not. Well, okay. The show must go on. So they're gonna talk about the different facets of the resume and the ins and outs of trying to help somebody, and hopefully tonight we help someone in their journey with finding employment. Because again, from personal experience, it's not easy. It is a job finding a job because you have to align yourself with the right job. You have to do different things to compete with folks who are either as qualified or more qualified than you, but you have to find ways to stand out. With that being said, I think we are okay right now. Again, we apologize for the technical difficulties. Please stand by. What's up, Q? No, it's not me by myself. We have, like I said before, we have having technical difficulty. Is she back? Is she back? And we're trying to get it figured out.
All right.
All right, there we go.
Got it.
All right, there we go.
You did great though. From what I could hear, you was holding it down pound for pound. I'm proud of you. All right.
I try.
Good.
I try.
Because when I was in, you dipped out. I was like, where he went? So yeah, and then the intro wanted to keep playing, but you know what that means, right? Because a couple of times we've had that issue. That means we put on a bomb ass show.
It's gonna be
so
fire.
That's
it's gonna be fire.
There it is. So you want to go ahead and drop the intros, and we can go. And
I already did the intro. I did most of the intro already. You just need to bring them on.
All right. So here we go. We have Lucretia
Pearson.
Yes. And we will be bringing on Julian as well.
So welcome.
So Lucretia.
Awesome. So I'll go ahead and just jump in. Thank you all for your patience. I know TK, you're out there and there's a storm going on. So, I hope everybody is safe and we don't have any more technical difficulties with the storm that is passing your way. As the two hosts had said, my name is Lucretia Pearson. We are coming to you to kind of give you some tips and tricks on resume building and interviews. I have about a little over 20 years of combined, management, staffing, and training experience in a variety of environments. But my focus right now is healthcare, being a previous healthcare professional. So I kind of stay focused right now in the healthcare field because that is something my personal knowledge and something that I love. And my counterpart here, I'll pass it over to Julian.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Julian. Thank you, Lucretia. Thank you both to the host as well for having me. I come to you all with 10 plus years, a little over a decade experience in healthcare, primarily on the HR side. And then as a passion project of mine, I am an author. I do like to write books. And my books actually get back to those in need. So it's a deep passion of mine and why I'm in healthcare. And I guess why I'm here today to try to help some other folks and ultimately learn at the same time. So thanks for having me. We're going to jump right in and we want this to be free flowing. So if you have questions, concerns, thoughts, something doesn't make sense, go right into the chat and start spamming the chat. If you like something, say you like it, thumbs up it, give it a heart. If you don't understand something, again, chime in. We want this to be interactive. All right. And Lucretia and host, please do feel free to stop me if there's a good question, honestly, if there's any question. So without further ado, let's jump into it. Getting a job is a job. Next slide. Cool. So we're going to talk about a few things here. I'm going to lead it off and then Lucretia is going to take us home. So the best for last. We're going to start off with a little bit of the introduction, understand what a resume is, how to go about it. We're going to jump into how to stand out and what you need to do to make your piece of paper become a person, right? Then we're going to go into building a resume and kind of the meats and potatoes of what that is. Next, we'll be putting the resume to use. It does us no good to have a resume, know how to stand out, but without putting it to use, it's no good. So we're going to definitely spend some time on that. And then we're going to go really into a very, very critical part is the interview. This is where you make the piece of paper become a person, right? Whether it's on the phone, whether it's emailing back and forth, right? whether it's in person, whether it's virtual, you really want to make sure you do everything you need to do to make yourself stand out in that interview because you have the time. And then we're going to follow it up with how to follow up, right? Again, it does us no good to do all this stuff if we don't show interest. So we're going to start, we're going to end with that, right? But to start, introduction, a little bit about a resume, okay? A resume is a formal document that provides an overview of your professional qualifications, including your relevant work experience, skills, education, and notable achievements, all right? So it's going to pretty much take everything that you can provide to an employer, right, to a team, and highlight it on a 1 or 2 page document. Go ahead and go to the next slide, please. How to stand out. So 3 things on this slide that I'd really like to talk about is skills, professional qualifications, and education. All right. Education is probably the easiest one. We all know what that is, right? Whether it's completed high school, you did college, university, got your master's, a trade school, whatever it may be, right? We know how to share that with other people, right? So that's kind of a no-brainer, something very, very easy, right? Some examples of that, if you went to John Jay High School, May 2012 is when you graduated, put that on there. Morehouse College, May 2016, you put that on there, right? And then whatever X school of radiology, right? And then even more so with your education, you want to talk about specific training that you got too. A lot of times in healthcare, but also other industries, you get this specialized training that isn't really quantified with a degree or a certificate, right? So you want to highlight those things too. An example of that would be I cross-trained as a CT tech at ABC Hospital since 2018, right? That gives better picture and more color to what you can bring to the table. And again, helps you take the resume and those pieces of paper and those words to make it a real thing, right? Going over to professional qualifications, certificates, degrees, training, right? Your truck driver license, you want to make sure to note that on there, right? We can all drive, right? Some of us with or without a license, but it's important to show those qualifications that we can do it and we can be employed, all right? Dental hygienist license, you can put that on there too. Again, I'm sure we all know how to brush our teeth, right? We know how to floss. But again, do you have the proper training to do it for somebody else, right?
Quick question about that.
Sure.
About the training, the qualifications and training. When you put that on there, is it all of them or is it specific to the job that you're looking for?
Great question. You definitely want to make everything specific to the job that you're trying to attack, right? And I use the word attack because getting a job is a job. So if you're applying to be a librarian, right, it's probably not best to put on that you have a truck driver's license, right? So you want to make sure it's within the same family, right? So if you're, you have a truck driver's license, but you're trying to work for a UPS, right? That's within the same family. I think that'd be good to say, hey, look, I'm certified truck driver, I have my license. While we don't necessarily need a truck driver's license, maybe for this role, I've been driving different things for different companies before, and I have these extra certificates that would show that I can stand out. So that's a great question. Any other questions that maybe come up? No, not yet? All right, I'll keep going. So as far as skills, this is the one that gets kind of tricky, to be honest. It's twofold. One, tangible and intangible. All right. So a tangible skill would be you have your blood draw certificate, as an LVN, right? Or you were promoted in 3 months instead of 6 months for a particular role, right? Those are tangible things that people can kind of report back to. Intangibles are going to be like your attitude, right? Are you kind of a go-getter? Are you first one in the office, last one out, right? Are you a people person, right? You want to highlight things that, again, match to the job that you're looking for so you can stand out and show them the things beyond certificates and education that you can actually provide for folks. All right. Because just because you have the certificates doesn't mean you be a good fit for the environment. You want to make sure to be a good environment fit too. And we want to highlight that because you'd be surprised. Teams really work well, not just with the best qualified, but it's a combination of qualifications, right? On both sides, hard and soft skills. We can go ahead into the next slide, please. To piggyback off of how to stand out, these other two here are very, very important, including your relevant work experience. You want to match experience to set job description. So there you have it, Jarrell. We have it here on the slide. We didn't forget. All right. And then the key is to show transferability, right? So if you're at one job, you want to show how you can come into this other job very seamlessly, right? We all know there's going to be some training, right? That's to be expected. But push come to shove, could they trust you to get 80% of the role, 80% of the job correct? That's really where you want to put yourself. And when you use those metrics, you're going to put yourself in a really good spot to get that interview, to get that job offer, and just to feel comfortable too. Because you want to feel comfortable in your job. You don't want to apply for a job that you get, but then you feel funny when you go there every day, right? So you really want to match those things of what your skills and work experience are to said job. Notable achievements. This is the part where you get to brag about yourself, right? This is the part where you get to really talk about those things that made you stand out at your last job or make you stand out in general, right? Some examples of that would be maybe you're a sonographer of the month at ABC Hospital in January 2024, right? So they know they're getting the top sonographer for that month, or that top, medical assistant, or that top salesperson for that month, or customer service representative, right? The list goes on and on. Teacher of the month. There's so many different things that are out there. Highlight those things, right? If you're the top salesperson for the year, highlight that, right? If you were promoted after 1 year to a sonographer 2 instead of a sonographer 1, put that on there. If you were promoted to manager, right, in 2 months because you met your sales quota for your sales team, put that on there, right? If you're a customer service representative and, you have the least number of complaints when you talk to folks on the phone about their bills or whatever it may be, put that on there. This is all where you can brag about your metrics and how you make your team better with quantifiable data. That's really what you want to have. You want to have data behind it. It's so much more powerful. So next slide, please. Building the resume. So this is the scary part, I'm going to be honest, because this is just you and the computer and your thoughts, right? So this is the scary part, right? It's one thing to think about it. It's another thing to actually put pen to paper, fingers to computer to actually get it out there. There's a link right here. There's 4 links actually. There's 4 links there that actually will show you templates that you can use. So while it seems daunting, there's stuff out there. You can use these 4. You can Google and find your own, right? You can use what we have here on the left as a template yourself, right? But in short, you want to start with your contact information. How can they reach you? Where do you live, right? Do you need to put your exact location as far as your address? Not necessarily. You could put the city, the state, and maybe your zip code, or just city and state, phone number, email, right? As far as the summary, this is where you explain why you're looking and what you want. They go hand in hand. Why you're looking and what you want, right? And then we go into those skills, right? The hard and soft skills, tangible and intangible skills, right? I'm great at answering phones. I have a great voice. I'm a people person. I'm a problem solver, right? Those types of things, right? I type 35 words a minute, right? If you're going for a secretary role, you want to show them how quick you are to note take and things like that, right? Then you want to go into your work experience, like we mentioned. You want to go into that as far as where you worked, the name of the institution, right? The date you started and the date Either you ended, or if you're continuing, you want to put present, right? And month and year is totally fine. You don't have to go totally granular and find the exact day, right? Month and year is totally fine, right? And then awards, notable awards. Again, top salesman of the month, customer service person of the year, right? I was a medical assistant, and we were voted the best unit, right? That I was a medical assistant. We won the best unit award at our hospital. Talk about the things you're a part of as a team, but also individually. It's okay to have both. It doesn't have to just be about you. If you're part of that team, you share in that success as well. So if you're having trouble figuring out exactly what you did to make your team better, you can talk about what your team did, because you're very much so a part of that, right? And then lastly, education. We know what that is, right? Very important to put that too, because a lot of people feed or filter out from that, right? So if you don't put your education on there, if you don't put you don't tie it back to your actual job that you're applying for, they will filter that out, right? So make sure those things are on there. Next slide, please.
So I'm going to chime in.
Sure.
Okay. So a couple of things Julian touched on. He touched on the contact information, your summary, your bio, which is going to be pretty much related with the skills. I'm going to give you the trick part to that piece. From my desk, I get your resume. Julian gets your resume. Whoever you applied for, they get your resume. They say, I need a program manager. Well, a couple of months ago, program manager Doriel, he applied for our company, but we don't know that. So I might happen to just type in program manager. There's also websites that we use where we can also type in those keywords, and we can find Doriel program manager. The reason why, because Doriel probably went on Indeed. He probably has a LinkedIn. He probably has anything on social media that has that he's a program manager. I type in a search, and I might go in and put in a script in Google. In that search, I might want to put in not Doriel, but program manager in healthcare that lives in California, or that lives in Georgia. It's going to pull up every program manager that lives in that particular area that had that information on their resume. So it's very important to be specific when you are putting down your skills and you're putting that summary in your bio, even in your work experience, or even in your awards, your education. Those key words that you put into your resume, we can go in and we can just type in and do a search, and we can find that person with those skills that match the qualifications that we need to fulfill the job that we have open, and we're giving them a call. You may not be looking for a job, you may not have applied for a job, but we're going to be that cold caller and say, hey, I saw your resume and I saw that you had this experience. I have an opening. Are you interested? And give you a little bit more information. And we kind of build relationships that way. The other thing is that we reach out to you because you might know someone. So it's very important to make sure that you're very specific when you are building your resume with that information that Julian provided to you. He also did, there's some links on that we just shared. We're going to provide those to you so that it's easier for you to get access. I think we're going to be able to put them in the chat. That way you are able to get the tools that you need and to build your resume using templates.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we got a bunch of questions too, Drew. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Right.
Is that
That's
where
what
you're
I'm
gonna
about to
go?
say. We got a couple questions. So the first question is from Devontae. They says, "Oh snap, good topic. Should you fluff your accomplishments? They can't check, can they?"
They can definitely check. They can definitely check, right? And that's why when you give references, and better yet, they can just call your institution and check on those things. So honesty is the best policy. It really is. So that's why I say if there's a accomplishment that maybe you can't think of something that you specifically did, talk about your team, because your team is you. You're part of that team, right? If you guys get graded, if you guys get a bonus for customer service representatives, you guys get an end of year bonus based on how many complaints you have versus you don't have, right? If you have a percentage that you have low, talk about, hey, my team consistently produces this, right? And I've been a part of this team, right? I help with trainings. That's a notable accomplishment. A lot of people at jobs that have been there for at least 2 years help with training new folks. They all do, right? So definitely something to consider when you're doing that is think about your team. Okay. Hopefully that answers your question. If you need more, go ahead and spam the chat. It looks like we got another one here. How many jobs should be listed? Great question. I think you should try to keep your resume to at least 2 pages at most. And I'd love for Lucretia to kind of chime in on this too. I don't think there's really a right number of jobs. Like there's no sweet number. I think 2 pages. And I think, to be honest, you really want to try as much as you can not to be a job hopper, right? And that means too many jobs in a short period of time. In 1 year, if you have 20 jobs in 1 year, that's a little too much, right? That's just a little too much. But as far as a solid number, it's really hard to give it. You just want to have 2 pages, but maybe Lucretia can share a little bit more.
Yes. So just to kind of give you a little bit of backstory or personal history, I wouldn't necessarily say I was a job hopper. I was an overachiever. I always went for the next big thing, whether it took me 6 months or a year. So if it was going to be a position that was going to better my career, I went. I wanted to make sure I got that knowledge. But the one thing you want to do is make sure it's relatable. When it comes down to the question, how many jobs, I like to say at least 10 years of experience. If you have 10 years of experience, you can put at least 10 years of experience onto your resume. If it's a lot of times it's relatable, you can put those with the information of your job duties under the location, your position, and then anything outside of not related to that, you can just put like a one-liner, other positions held. And you can just list those. You don't have to put any information. You don't have to elaborate on it. You can just put other history, other positions held. The reason being is because there's a thing called gap of employment. And I'm an overthinker. I see someone with a gap in employment. First thing I'm like, what were they doing those 2 years? Where were they? And depending on the position, I might say, okay, why were they taking care of their children? Were they incarcerated? Where were they? I want to know. I want to make sure you were doing something and not just twiddling your thumbs. COVID happened, life happened. A lot of people, and I mean a lot of people, went back to school. Put that on there. Some folks said this had to be stay-at-home moms. Put that on there. There's fancy names that you can use to say that you were a stay-at-home mom or a housewife. I've seen house manager. I've seen it all. So there's fancy names. We know what it is, but put something there that you don't just leave a gap of employment. Now, as far as the length of the resume, what Julian touched on, yes, we don't want it to be 6 pages, because you want to put every job that you've ever held on there. We like to keep it at least a page or two. That should suffice. And you can just go ahead and make sure you have that important information that's going to be pertaining to the position that you're applying for.
Right on, right on. So hopefully that answers that one for you. Looks like we have here, Nayla Jem says, I always look at how long one stays at a job. I will pass over the resume. There you have it. We have a person who, is on the other side of receiving those resumes, and she's letting you know exactly what she sees, right? So we're not too far off. We're right on track as far as what information we're giving you. And it's a stamp of approval from a manager here in the chat. So that's good. Thank you for that. I think that's helpful for managers to see, and for, people on the other side making those resumes to see exactly what a manager is talking about and looking at. If you haven't already, as the request has been made, please like, share, and subscribe, right? It's a lot of good information here. We want to continue to share it. Let's see if there's any other questions before we move on here. Right here, I see one. What if you're switching careers and haven't worked in the original field for more than 5 years? That's a great question. I think Lucretia touched on that a little bit. I'll dive a little deeper too. You want to make sure, again, to articulate and share what is happening. Because at this particular point in the game, right, you're just words on a piece of paper. That's it. They can't call you and ask you. They're not going to. If they can't understand it from the paper, they're not going to call for more information. They have so many more resumes. So you really want to make a point to kind of outline why you're looking for the job in that bio part, but also if anything has happened, if there was a gap in your employment, hey, I recently got married, I took 6 months off, right? People can relate to those things when you share them, right? I just had twins, right? So I decided to take 6 months off, right? Expressing that is way better than hiding that. Because if you hide it, they're going to automatically think the worst. Oh, this person got fired. They're not a good employee, right? And that's not the case. You want to be with your 2 little ones, right? As you should, right? As a mom or even as a father, if you're like, hey, I took some time off because, hey, you know what? I want to spend time with my family. Family is very important to me. Now, if you're applying to a job and their values are saying family, work-life balance, and things like that, man, you've already shown that you kind of fit in there on the intangible side, right? You value those things that they value. So you'd be surprised by being honest how much you can really do favors for yourself. So don't forget to do that. Let's see. There's any other questions, concerns? Cool. There's a thank you. Welcome. Thank you again. I appreciate you. And I think we can keep going, but the questions are great. Keep them coming and we'll keep them kind of flowing throughout. So let's go ahead and talk about putting the resume to use here. All right. So here, putting the resume to use, this is where you take the time after putting the resume together, how you're going to flow. And you might have different resumes for different jobs. Okay. I think we alluded to that, but we didn't necessarily say it straight up. But you might have different resumes for different jobs. And that's okay. Right. You have a lot of different experience. Right. If you've been working since out of high school, you maybe did this job, that job. Right. So you might have different jobs that and different resumes to outline where you want to go. I want to go customer service. I want to go into healthcare. I want to go into sales. Right. Maybe you want to go into media, right? And work for like a news station or whatever it may be. You might have different ones, right? So you have to tailor them to them. Moreover, you got to know exactly where you can find these jobs, right? Because where you find a teacher job might not be exactly where you find a doctor job, right? They might not be in the same areas. And while they might be on 1 or 2 sites together, there's things called job fairs, right? We have a tool called Google where you can actually Google and say, hey, what job fairs are around my area for said profession, right? For healthcare, right? For education, specifically high school, specifically elementary school, specifically higher education, college, universities, trade schools. You might want to be a teacher at a trade school. You might have a trade. You want to get out of that trade. You want to work at the school and teach other people how to do that, right? Instead of just going on, you know, the Indeeds, the ZipRecruiters, right? The LinkedIns. It's okay to use Google because there's a lot of different things out there. Shoot, you probably Google this. How do I find a job? Getting a job is getting a job. Getting a job is a job. This podcast is going to come up, right? And this is going to give you some information. So you want to make sure to use the internet to your advantage, right? This goes without saying when you go to job fairs, and I highly recommend them, whether they're in person or virtual job fairs are a thing now. So there's really no excuse to not have avenues to find a job. You know, dress professionally. You want to put your best foot forward. You want to show them you're serious, right? Again, whether it's virtual or in person, right? You want to ask the recruiter for their email. You want to get connected with them. You want to be able to continue the conversation, right? You don't want to end the conversation. Hey, I went to the job fair. He was really nice, or she was really nice, shook their hand, and now I don't have any way of contacting them, right? If that's the job you want, you got to really show you want it. You got to get their name, number, right? What's your last name? How long you've been here? Ask them questions, engage with them, right? Show them you're interested, right? And then my favorite question to ask a recruiter is, what skills does a successful new hire have at your company? This will cross-reference what skills you have, right? I want to be a teacher. What does a first-year teacher really look like being in a successful role with your school district, right? They're going to list out A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then you're going to be able to hear that, remember it, and say, hey, I have 4 of the 5 things. I don't have this one thing. I want to master that thing so I can be a little bit better candidate, right? So you can cross-reference and see what they're looking for, right? As far as the job sites, I mean, we're not biased. I think any and all job sites are good because they're going to get you to more people. But obviously the biggest one is Indeed, right? ZipRecruiter is pretty big. And then the one that I think does the most wonders for people, asking friends at their company, whether it's a company you want to work at, they might be able to tell you a competitor that you maybe have never heard of, but they're looking for somebody, right? Just connecting with your network, doing things like this, attending a podcast, joining a podcast, sharing information. This stuff that we're talking about isn't necessarily on Indeed or ZipRecruiter, right? But it's through those connections. So make sure to build those connections, right? If you know someone and they move into a new job, what is that job like, right? Instead of always talking about the sports game and things like that, talk about stuff that's going to help you, progress in your career. Talk about, hey, I saw you got that new job. How did you get that? How do you like your first month there? How do you like your first week there, right? Do you think I have a good shot of being in a role like that? I'm trying to transition to something different. I don't like this job. It's okay to have those conversations, right? I love sports like everyone else, but at the end of the day, sports aren't going to pay the bills, at least not for me, right? So it's okay to have those conversations that are healthy and transformative, because you can go back to the sports game, but you really want to continue to progress, right? Things aren't getting cheaper, and you want to make sure to just get, elevate yourself, right? So have those conversations. I think we can go to the next slide if there's not any other questions. Did anybody see any questions in the chat here?
Yeah,
and I want to, while you're looking, as far as the questions, I wanted to piggyback on that and touch on the networking piece of it and asking a friend their company. I just, for myself, as I mentioned, I have 20 years of combined experience, but I don't know if you caught, I probably named about 4 or 5 different things. I have a mentor, my mentor, Deb. She recognized everything that I was doing. Well, you're in healthcare, you're in management, you're in training, but I see you as recruiting. And I'm like, okay, how can I put all these things together? One thing I do advise is that you do get a mentor, find out someone, get on LinkedIn, get in different groups, organizations, and meet people. This is a world of knowing someone and having those contacts. Social organizations, whether, you know, there's different events that are going on, participate, sign up. If you see something that is happening at your local convention center, sign up, go network, meet people, and take that person that might be, has a career and something that you are thinking of, wanting to learn more about, because best believe that person has a Rolodex full of contacts, and one of those contacts in that Rolodex may be your next job. So you want to make sure that you are networking with folks and you get you a mentor, if at all possible. Work on getting a mentor to get you to that next step.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we have another question here,
Okay.
or not a comment. A great one again. It is here. Let's see here. What is the minimum length at being at a job that gets looked over? I don't know if there's a set thing for that. I really don't. I think it's really more about how you tie in where you're leaving to your ultimate story. You want to create a story, right? And you want it to make sure it makes sense. So if you left a job after 3 months to go into another role, say you were, you know, in one career, you didn't like it, and you move to another, maybe in your bio say, hey, I'm a, you know, recent graduate with experience in XYZ, who has, you know, actively made transitions towards attaining skill sets in ABC with the goals of, you know, receiving job in XYZ, right? So like really try to tie up your story in your bio and hash that out, because if you don't, they just don't know, right? Then they're going to see, oh, well, you were in this job, you left to this job. I don't really know, right? But if, hey, I started off as an assistant coach, right, for elementary school. And then I went and I said, I tried to be, and I went to be an assistant coach for another elementary school. And then I went from that elementary school to a high school to be, you know, another assistant coach. And I finally got my head coach job, and I'm looking for another head coach job, right? Well, before he got that first head coach job, right, he was probably assistant, he or she, right? So they had to say, hey, I have 10 years of experience as an assistant coach. I'm looking to make that next step. I know what it takes to add value as a head coach. I have 7 years of doing it, right? And then there's going to be some type of organization, some type of team, some type of school that's going to say, you know what? I think this person has the chops now to move forward because they've shown it at each of their place, and this is what they want to do. It's clear. They were hopping from place to place because they're trying to get more and more experience. Their notable achievements at each place. They're part of teams that won. You know what? We want that type of caliber person here. So I think that's the best way to look at it.
You can also, you know, when I kind of touch point, because you did mention something where it's moving around and you have achievements, but there's this thing called a cover letter. Now you can add that in there. Sometimes, you know, I might get a resume and I need this person. I need this nurse that's a specialty nurse. And if it's a certain specialty, such as like the ICU, critical care, labor delivery, I might get one a month. So I'm going to need that person. So I'm going to really, really look at your resume. I'm going to look at everything you submitted. You can put that information in your cover letter. I'm going to take a look at the details. You can put your story in there for a little longer, just a little short paragraph, and you can put that information in your cover letter, and you can add that onto with your resume. There's always, when you are applying for a job, there is always an option to either attach your cover letter and your resume. If there is only one option when you're filling out that application for just the resume, just make sure that your resume document is the run-on where you have your cover letter, your resume, and your resume. That's all going to be in the one attachment.
Cool. Very cool. I think there's maybe a comment here says they liked kind of the stuff that we're talking about. So that's good. It's good feedback. Again, if you're liking stuff, feel free to say 2 thumbs up. I like it, right? We want to make sure to spam the chat. And then it looks like there's another question, and it kind of bleeds into what you're going to talk about, Lucretia, but it says right here, please know about the company. It's one of the major questions. So I think that leads right into what you're going to be talking about.
Yes.
So without further ado, take it over.
So I got a question for anyone in the chat or our host. So why do we have to interview? Do we have any answers? Why do we have to interview? Why do you think we have to interview?
So they'll know what you're talking about. You know what you're talking about. I think they just want to see your pretty face. That's all it is. They want to see how fly you look.
Okay, that might be one reason, but and I'll touch on that. I will touch on that. That's a good point.
I think they want to make sure you're real. They want to make sure you're real. There's a lot of AI this day and age.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people making stuff for other people.
Good on a piece of paper, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they want to make sure you're legit. They want to make sure you're legit.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have any comments in the chat? Why do I have to interview? Why do I interview?
Let's see here. Someone in the chat says they want to get your vibe, right? They want to see you and get your vibe. Yeah. And let's see, there's another one here. I need to see you. Person here who is a manager. They said it flat out. I need to see you and I need to see what you know, right? So it's true, right? Okay. And do they actually understand what it means to be in this position? That's right there from the mouth of a manager. So it doesn't get any better than that.
Perfect. Yes. So we got a couple of things. One, you interview for the employer, which is mentioned. Yes. You look good on paper. You did all that hard work. You looked and you put all your information on there. You look good on paper. I did hear someone earlier ask, can you kind of add some additional things? Oh, it looks nice. Let's bring this person in. You've done the work. You put your resume in. You applied. Yeah, we want to bring you in. But also, what about you, the person that is looking for the job? How many people have gone to an interview, you've met with the team, or you've driven there and you're like, I don't think this is going to be good for me. They're not just interviewing you, you're interviewing them. So just keep in mind that the reason why you're interviewing is not only so that employer is getting to know you and your skills, but you also want to try to figure out whether that company is going to be a good culture for you, not only for your experience. I'm going to tell you personally myself, but my lifestyle. I'm remote. I love working from home. I could get everything that I need done. I think I actually work a little bit harder. I love it. And I was just telling my boss the other day, I said, I feel like when Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes, when he jumped on the couch with Oprah and he was in love, I said, that's what I feel like. You want to be able to feel that way when you go and you're having this interview and you're meeting with that leadership team in that organization. So preparing for the interview. You want to research the company. That's really important when researching the company. You want to know when they were founded, who the CEOs are, directors, executives, the manager. You want to find out what they do. You know what you do, but what does the company, the overall company, what do they do? I work in a hospital. I work in healthcare in a hospital. Well, what kind is it? Acute care hospitals or a long-term facility? Like, what is it? What do they actually do? You want to know that information. You also want to know what your role is specifically going to be doing. You want to know where they're located. Do they have multiple offices? Even like, well, I applied for this position over here on the north side, but I live on the south side. So there's opportunity for me to get a little bit closer. You want to know that. One of the other things that I think is very important is the mission, the vision, and the values. Some folks, they forget to look at that. You want to find that out because you want to make sure that is going to personally fit with you. Are you going to fit with that company's vision and those values? Are you going to fit with their mission? Do you agree with it? Because you might not agree with what that company is doing. So, I think that this is important for during the interview time, as far as when you are applying after you do your resume. Those are some of the things that you want to look at when you are preparing, because why even apply? The other thing is competitors. Julia kind of talked on about sales positions. If you got some competitors, if it's a larger company, it's like, okay, wait a minute. I want to kind of know who's around me. Remember, you're looking for a job too. So this is just an interview. You didn't get the job. So while you're looking up those competitors, you might want to put in the application and apply for that one too. Do we have any more questions before I go on to the dress part and professionally?
So just something you hit on, the vision and the mission. Can you go explain what that is? Because a lot of people don't know, or some people may not know or understand what that is when it comes to a professional environment.
So each organization, they're going to have a mission, a vision, and their organization values. This is just the overall what the company believes in, what they strive to do. Like us at the organization that I work for, our mission, our vision is helping people. We are one team. We put our patients first, and we are putting our people, and we are focused on community and health. So you want to make sure that you are able to, if you don't want to work around people, if you don't want to work in healthcare, if that's not something that your goal is, and that might not be your mission, that might not be your vision. You might want to work for someone that is a for-profit and versus a non-profit organization. So those are those kind of things that you have to know and understand so that they're in line with your personal views. We have gender care programs. We focus, we're very heavily focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion, all very inclusive organization. Unfortunately, we have to say these are different times. A lot of folks might not believe in that. I don't know what company that you'll find these days that are inclusive and believing in those, but that's part of our vision and our values. So it's very important that you do look into the organization's mission, vision, and values. Do we have anything else? Anyone else?
No, but I do want to just stop for a hot second, because it looks like a lot of people are liking this. We just got a comment come in right here. This is great information. So, I want to give a shout out to everybody for not only participating in the chat, but also, chiming in and sharing what they're liking, the questions. This is definitely for you guys. So thank you for that. Appreciate it.
All right. So it looks like the next bullet point is dress professionally. Well, this kind of is a twofold. You have your idea of what some folks think of what dress professionally is. And some people can overdo it. I think that keeping it simple, like me today, I have on a black blouse, I have on accessories. You don't want to overdo it. I always say, if you can't have two suits, have one. Have a black or a blue. No other color. No white, no beige, no green, no purple. Have a black or blue or both, or gray. And you can mix and match with the blouses or shirts if you're a man, and your ties. You want to keep it simple. You don't want to overdo it. You don't want to take away from your interview. I've interviewed people in my management career days. I was so focused on, if it wasn't eyelashes, it could have been, you know, what they had on. And the reason why I said that, I lived in Houston, Texas, and there was a time where the eyelashes was a thing, and I don't know why. and every person, and it was just like I was so focused on this person and their eyelashes. So you want to just make sure, nothing against, because I love eyelashes, I love it, but when we want to make sure that we keep it simple, keep it basic, very light makeup. I know a lot of folks, we have so many different talents with makeup and hair. Amazing. I love that the natural hairstyles are now accepted. For myself personally, that's one of the things that I love. But you do want to maintain professionalism when you are going into your interview. Now, you work so hard on these resumes. Please bring it. Don't leave it at home, or, oh, I sent it. No, you want to go to Kinko's, not the day of, or I don't know if they still have Kinko's, but you want to go to a print store if you have a printer at home, but you want to print out at least 3. Minimum of 3. Put that in your portfolio to take with you. Don't carry the paper in your hand. Have a small, invest in a small little portfolio that has another side with notes where you can put a pen. Have your little portfolio. Put 3 copies of your resume inside of that. Make sure that you prepare the day before, 2 days before, however many days, but don't have it printed out on the day of. Make sure you are prepared. I mentioned your portfolio with the side with a notepad, because I want you to take notes. You're not going to just sit there and nod and yes and answer questions. I want you to take notes during that interview. It's very important to take notes during that interview, because you're going to be able to go back and kind of review things, or, you know, be able to ask those follow-up questions. Follow-up questions are very important because, you know, you want to ensure that you are displaying your interest in the position. What does a successful, what does a success look like in this particular role? Or what does an average day look like in this particular role? Or is there room for professional growth? Or my favorite, career development. I'm always looking to better myself. So I look to find out if that organization has some career development, because, you know, I might just, you know, I just have my master's degree. I might want to go and get my doctorate. Do you have tuition reimbursement? Because I'm paying back loans right now, and I don't think I want another bill. So, you know, I'm not going to give them all that information, but I want to know, are they going to be able to have a space for professional development? Do you have tuition reimbursement? Like, what are some of the perks? Those are some of your benefits that you would have. So those are some of those things that you can ask during your interview. So it's important to have that notepad available so that you can ask questions. Speaking of questions, do we have any additional questions in the chat?
I got, well, not in the chat, but I got one. What you mentioned earlier, like following up and stuff. I mean, not following up, having 3 copies of your resume. How do you guys feel about business cards?
You know, so if you have business, if you're above and beyond, and you're an overachiever and you have business cards. I remember I used to, at the school that I used to teach at, I used to have my students make business cards, have their little business cards for themselves and put it on their resume. And one, it was just another, because I wanted them to have an extra tool or experience, extra tool. And I don't see anything wrong with it. It's just a business card. They can put it to the side. I have something that I keep business cards in. They might happen to come across and be like, oh yeah, I remember interviewing this person. It's just another piece of communication. There's nothing wrong with putting a business card on top or with that resume.
Yeah, I would agree. I think if anything, it should be an additive thing. It shouldn't be the sole thing. You really want to come in there and, in my head, as she asked, as you asked the question and she's answering, I was just thinking about, the classics are the classics for a reason, right? They're tried and true. So bringing a resume is tried and true. We all know how to do it. It's always been successful, especially when you're in person for that interview. So there's really no reason to stray away from that. Again, if you want to add things to it, a business card, use QR codes, whatever it may be as well. But the resume is the resume is the resume. So.
Mm-hmm. And you weren't speaking of business card in place of the resume, were you?
No, it was an addition to.
It's an addition to.
Yeah.
And then the QR code. Not everyone is as savvy as Julian. You can make your QR. You can make a QR code with your information, and you can put it onto. It can be like an electric business card where they can just scan it, and it can be a business card, your contact, and you can put that on your resume, and they can scan it. So there are so many different options that you can do, but just make sure that you're careful when it comes down to with the business card. You can have your name, your email address, your phone number, your specialty on it, and that's pretty much it. It's just going to be a contact card, and you can. There's nothing wrong with having that on there, and as another piece of a contact for that employer, that person, that manager that is interviewing you. Won't say it's overkill, won't say it won't get thrown in the trash or anything, but hey, there's nothing wrong with it. Okay, any more questions? Okay, well then I will go over. So the next thing is I have a question, one more question. When you go to a car lot and you see this nice new car, you're walking around, you stand by it and you're walking around, you're looking at it. What's the next thing that happens usually at that car lot?
Somebody comes up to you. Somebody comes up to you.
I look at the price and I walk off.
You look at the price. But Julia, you're right. I'm glad someone comes up to you and they say, you like that car? And they can tell you everything about that car to make you want to buy that car. So let's say it is in your price line, Doriel, it's in your price range and you're looking at it, but that salesperson is going to give you all the nuts and bolts about that particular car. So we're going to get into the nitty gritty. What you go into this car lot and you're looking at this car, you get a little story about it. So I want you to create your own story when you are preparing for your job interview. So what skills are required for the job? So you want to make sure that you are able to provide the relevant skills that that's going to be related to the position that you are interviewing for. This falls under the behavioral interviewing, and some people are familiar with it because you're going to be asked a question, and it could be a question where it's, tell me about a time when. They're going to want you to tell them about a time when, right? They're going to want you to explain the situation, that's the challenge that you might have had, what action and what were the results. A lot of folks, when they get put on the spot, they're like, oh, You gotta kind of think about it. If it's something that you experience and something that you've done, it should be able to just roll off your tongue. You should be like, oh yeah, you know. And I said, tell me about a time when, oh, well, I was leader here in my previous organization, and you go in and you want to be able to tell them that story. You want to give them the challenges that you might have had, what action that you took, and what were the results. Because the employer, they're going to want to know, how are you able to adapt in certain situations? What are you able to use critical thinking? Critical thinking, I think, is very important. When some folks, when you are applying to some positions, they might have assessments after you apply, before you interview. When you take that assessment, there's going to be scoring, and there's going to be information based on how you answered those questions that you were presented. They're going to be able to take that resume, the information that you provided on that resume. They're going to take your car story that you provide them, and then they're going to take that skills test that you did that was submitted to them. They're going to evaluate and look at all three. Now, they're going to be able to tell if that doesn't match. Your resume looks a little bit too good. Your story is a little, your skills test that you submitted, did you have somebody else take that for you? Because this doesn't match. So that's why it's important to be honest on your resume, be prepared, and have the information that you provided on your resume, know your job, know you, and take that test. Do we have any more questions?
I think we're good. I think everyone is digesting this, and they're liking it.
Okay. So the other thing I wanted to touch on is knowing your strength. I kind of touched on being asked questions on the spot. I know that we've all gone through, we're professionals, and we've been, or have had a job, and we've had job interviews, and you've been asked, what are some of your strengths, or what are some of the things that you think you can do better? Have you ever just sat there and was like, wait a minute, and you had to think about your strengths or think about your weaknesses? That's something that's very important to kind of think about. Everyone has strengths, but when you're put on the spot, sometimes we forget. So we want to make it a practice to think ahead all the time, know what your areas of development are going to be, know what your weaknesses are, know them, it's you, and make a list. Because when you're interviewing, you want to be able to have a conversation, and that's all an interview is. It's just a conversation. If you remember in the earlier part of me talking about why do we interview, we want to figure out if you're going to be a good fit. There are times where we hire new grads. They haven't really had the working experience, or what we like to call green, someone that might be changing careers. They might have just finished school, or they're changing their careers, or we like them as a person. We can teach someone how to do a particular job, but we can't teach you how to fit in and to have with the organization, and to and allow you those strengths and develop and allow and help you develop within our organization. So just remember that. Want to tell you a quick story. I was an instructor previously, and I used to give lectures. And to prepare for my lectures, I would record myself while I'm prepping for my lecture. So if you see me right now, I'm using my hands a lot. I talk with my hands, right? And I can go on and on and on and on, and I'm talking with my hands, and I'm moving around. how do you think that is going to portray when you are interviewing with someone? So one of the tips that I have for you is to kind of do that same thing. Everyone has their little cell phone. They make TikTok videos, YouTube videos, recording or whatever. Record yourself. Get a friend, get your kid or whoever. Get some questions on Google, and you can record yourself interviewing. Listen to when you play it back. Listen to how you're responding. Critique yourself, your body language, your posture. Listen to how you are articulating your experience. Don't get too comfortable. This is a trick, because a person will let you interview because you think they are the nicest, they're real cool, and you got really comfortable in that interview. You got a little bit too comfortable in that interview. But guess what? Best believe they're writing that note down or mentally, and they're not calling you back. So make sure you stay on track. You are aware. You don't want to sound like a robot. You don't want to be a robot, but just remember, this is your time to shine. So just make sure that you are preparing yourself, and you're asking yourself those important questions. You know yourself, and you're ready for the interview. Do we have any questions?
I don't see a question, but somebody was talking about the assessments here, and they're talking about how people are paying people to do that. I would stay away from that. That's the only advice I have on that. Stay away from that. It's not good for you on either side.
Yes. The reason and they're paying for them, and there's a thing called predictive index. There are some companies that as soon as you apply for the position, they might have it set up to where the assessment is automatically sent to you, or the recruiter looked at your resume, saw that you have the skills and qualifications, and sends you an email and said, hey, we're going to move you to the next step, which is going to be you taking an assessment, and then we're going to review before and see if you are going to schedule an interview. As I mentioned, you do not want to pay anyone to take that test, because the way you answer those questions is going to determine what, number one, if you do get a callback, and number two, is going to kind of help set up your interview questions that the manager is going to interview you with. The system, what it does is it spits out, based on your responses, it's going to spit out some questions. Those are going to be your questions that are going to be asked, and you need to be able to answer those questions. And if it's not aligning with the way that you responded on that test, then of course that's a red flag, and that can of course move you out of the running for that particular position.
100%.
Okay. So following up, this is something that I think we are going to probably want to ensure that everyone does do. Once you've done your resume, you've gotten that interview, you want to follow up after each conversation that you have, whether it's from the career event that Julian mentioned or from the interviews that I mentioned. You want to make sure that you are following up with the employer, letting them know that you are interested in and you thank them for their time. What do you think is going to be the best way for this to be done? Does anyone know? Do we have any response? What is some of the best ways?
By phone call.
Okay. Anyone else?
Or email?
Yeah, we got email in the chat here. Email.
Hell, a stamp. Put a letter in the mail.
Send them in the mail, right? Send them a communication in the mail. Well, email is the best for this. You're going to, once you finish that interview, Doriel, you mentioned business cards. You mentioned as a candidate providing the business card. Well, you want to make sure that you get that hiring manager's business card, because you got an interview invite and request, but it was from the recruiter or it was from the admin. It wasn't from that hiring manager. You want to make sure that you do get that business card from those folks that you interviewed with, and you want to make sure that it has that email information. Anyone that you could have been a panel interview, you want to make sure that you get everyone's email address, everyone's business card, everyone's email address. There are times sometimes where when you have multiple people who are interviewing you, they might be from different departments. The reason why this is done is because, you know, the hiring manager from the one department, they might see one thing, but another department manager might see another thing. Another manager's like, oh, you know what? I heard so-and-so, and on floor number 2 is looking for someone. They would be a good fit for them. So you want to make sure you get everyone's email address or business card so that you can make sure that you follow up with them. And it's going to be a best practice that you are following up, sending them that email within 48 hours. So you can just send them a quick thank you for their time, let them know that you were interested, still interested in the position. Make sure that you are reiterating and summarize how the team or the folks that you met were, you know, it was a pleasure meeting them, or they were great, and that you will be a good asset to the company. And remember that notepad that I told you to take notes on? Kind of write down some of those things, kind of summarize and connect back to some of those things that you talked about during the interview, because your mind is going to be spinning. You're not going to remember all that stuff. So you jot down some of that stuff on your notepad. You can put some of that in your email, and then we're like, oh, this person really paid attention. This is a good candidate. So you want to make sure that you do that. Now, after you send that follow-up email, you don't hear back. A week has gone by, or even a week and a half. We like to make sure that it's about 7 days, right? You might want to kind of nudge them a little bit. I can tell you for myself, I get busy. My leaders get busy. We get busy. We might still need you, but we're busy running the organization, running other departments or other things that need to be done. And we still have this empty spot that's waiting for you, but we haven't had time to come back and call you and say, hey, we want to hire you. It's okay to go ahead and send that, hey, I just want to follow up, because number one, it's going to let you know, oh my goodness, yes, we did need to, we were going to be following up with you, or we've been so busy, or as though, you know what, we did select another candidate, we apologize. And you've been sitting there waiting, thinking that you might have gotten this job. So it's okay to nudge that person so that you know, hey, do I need to look for something else, which you should continue to be looking and applying until someone gives you an offer letter, actually until you start on your first day. But you do want to make sure that you follow up within 7 days if you had not heard back. A rule of thumb, there's for organizations, all organizations, they should be following back with you within the week. That's just candidate experience. You want to make sure that all organizations, they have surveys for you. They'll send you a survey. They want to provide a good candidate experience. They don't want you on the Yelps or the other review companies like, hey, I interviewed and I never heard back from the company. So every organization has it. So want to make sure that that if just in case they don't follow up with you, that you do follow up and you do get some response or answer and knowing what you're going to do next. Do we have any more questions or before we run into the summary?
No questions, but a great comment. We have a manager in the chat saying that they couldn't tell you the last time they got a follow-up email, and that they would be floored and it would get her attention if she did get one. So again, listen to what the managers are saying in the chat. It works. right?
Yeah.
Not only is Lucretia saying it, but a manager is saying it. It's definitely something you want to make note of. It'll make you stand out. It really will.
All righty. So I think Julia and I, we can, because as we are coming to an end, we kind of want to tag team on this. First, I want to thank everyone for joining us. We are open to additional questions throughout before we close out and as well as after. But we want to kind of summarize a lot of things that we went over with you as far as with the resumes. The best resumes stand out by being yourself, because why? There's only one you. You know, I know there's only one me. So you want to make sure that you're organized. Being organized is very important. Some of that, those links that Julian provided, use the templates for your resume. Have your friend review your resume, have someone else that has a good eye use the resume. I can't tell you, review your resume. I can't tell you how many times I have seen typos. I just saw a resume before I got on this call, and that had the little red marks, you know, when you're correcting a document. She had a resume and she had the red marks of things that needed to be fixed. That's what she submitted to me for advocacy. So make sure you're paying attention. You're looking for those errors and delete that one so that you're not uploading the one that has the corrections on your computer, so that because sometimes you can't change it once you submit it. When it's gone, it's gone. Make sure that you are highlighting your transferable skills. As Julian mentioned, match your skills to the job that you are applying for. If you are applying for a truck driver with a CDL driver's license, or that requires a CDL driver's license, and all you have is a Class A, or even if it's a hazmat and you just have the CDL Class B, I think they have like different B's and A's, and you need a hazmat, you want to make sure that you are finding all that information in there. And you want to make sure that you're paying attention to that job description. All the information is there. Before you even apply for a particular job, make sure you're looking at the details and you are putting the information onto your resume, making it match and making sure that it's true and it's you. So match your skills with the job. And prove you can do the job. Give real life examples. Make sure that that's kind of your car story that I talked about. Make sure that you are giving those examples. You know, when they say, tell me about a time when, give us some examples. Make sure that you're proving real life examples. Yeah, I tell you, you'll feel so comfortable when you are telling and sharing your experience in those real life examples. And the last thing is making sure that you are showing engagement. Follow up, as we mentioned, get those email addresses, follow up, make a connection, meet the managers, meet other folks within the organization. Because remember, you've gone online, you've done the research, you've looked on LinkedIn. So you want to, hey, it's, you know, John Doe. I know that they're in this department. You want to make some connections. You want to meet the various people and make sure that you are building those relationships. Julian, is there anything that you would like to add?
No, I think you hit it right on the head here. It looks like the chat, there's some people saying, you know, this is great info. So people are definitely loving it and getting some good information. We have a couple questions here that maybe we can continue on with, just kind of answering those. But no, I think we hit it on the head. If you have questions, feel free to chime in. This is definitely the time to get your questions out, get them answered. You have a manager in the chat. You have two hosts here that have a lot of experience on their end. And then you have people here that are reviewing resumes. So you have any and everyone that you would need these questions answered for right here. So feel free to share them. You'll get them answered and we'll keep it honest. I mean, the manager here is keeping it brutally honest, and that's great to see.
Yes. And another transparent, I was talking to a friend of mine who is a leader, and this is going to be one of those generational things. We have some experienced people. We have one of our hosts here who just retired and going into another career, right? And so we have some folks that are going into school, who just came out of school, and they're going on and they're getting hired. And we were talking about dressing professionally, and I was talking to one of my friends, and she was like, yeah, we just hired this person, and they're it's a paid internship, but they showed up like they were going to bed. So you want to make sure that you because they're looking at people are watching you. They might not be in the same department, but people are looking at you. You want to put your best foot forward at all times. And speaking of all times, what happens within that first 90 days? Now, I'm here in California, and I'm going to tell you,
You're on probation.
Okay, there you go. And what happens when you're on probation? That manager and that HR person, they're watching you. And they can say within that first 30, you know what, this is not going to work. And you don't get no unemployment that first 30 days they terminate you. Yep. No unemployment from that company. You don't get anything. It's just not a good fit. And guess what? Okay, well, you know what? It didn't work. It wasn't a good fit. They term you. A couple of months later, you see another position. You're going to apply for that position. Uh-huh. Me, Julian, or another manager, we're looking. We marked you. You're flagged in there. You're flagged in the system. You are flagged.
So when you say flag, like if somebody goes to another company, they can see like they got terminated for whatever.
So not another company, within that same company. So yeah, within that same company. So you're flagged within that same company. So you're going in that system. Whenever you are terminated or in a company, there are different codes that there's going to be a term reason. And there's going to be very general, very vague, but specific, but enough information to know that we see you, but we're not moving forward. So yeah, so be cautious of that when you are applying, interviewing, and when you're getting these jobs, because you've done all this work, but what happens after you get the job? Right. Make sure you continue to put your best foot forward, because everyone is watching you. So you want to make sure that you are preparing yourself even after you get that position. So that's one thing that I did want to touch on. And then Doriel, you just mentioned other companies. People know, people talk. Julian kind of mentioned references. We liked your interview. We liked you on paper. Let's go ahead and call and check these references.
And I was gonna say something else too that made you really made me think about it when you was talking about it, about how damn, I lost my train of thought that fast. Applying for multiple positions in the same company. Mm-hmm. Is that a good or a bad thing?
What's wrong with it? You could do it. You could apply for multiple positions in the company, because it might not be the same person. When I say the same person, but the same hiring manager. It can be in a different area of the company. If you have the experience, what's wrong with applying for the different positions? I have hired people that have applied to at least 200 or 300 positions. They're going to keep on applying until we call. And that's fine, because one day we might see them. We probably didn't even look at, because there are certain positions that we get so many applications, and we don't get an opportunity to look at them all. I hate to say this, folks, but we don't get a chance to look at all of your applications and resumes. We don't. There are certain jobs that are, that we get so inundated with applications and resume, and it might not. So when you get that declination, the email, don't take it personal. It might not have anything to do with your skills and qualifications. It's just that we got so many resumes and applications, and we did not take a look at that particular your application and resume, which is very important. That if you see a company that you're interested in, a lot of times they have email notifications. You would want to sign up for that email notification. So as soon as you see it on your phone or whatever, you hit that, you log in and you apply, because you want to be on the top of that list. Because I know myself, and I know some of my counterparts, we're going to look at those first. We kind of look at those first ones that kind of applied. We're going to look at the first ones that kind of applied, their skills, qualifications, and so on. So if you know a company, you make sure that you're on that email distribution and you are applying for those positions, and you just keep applying until they see you.
Okay. And we got
I think it also goes back to having multiple different resumes for different jobs, knowing yourself and knowing your skill set, so, you might want to be, let's just say you want to work for, the UPS, right? There's a lot of different roles within there, right? So maybe you have your CDL and you have a truck driver license and you want to drive, there are trucks that are taking mail from here and there, right? Packages. Maybe you do have really great customer service skills and you want to work maybe in their call center, right? Or maybe you interact better face to face with folks. Maybe you're at their storefronts, right? And that could be all the same person, right? Just because you have your CDL on your truck doesn't mean that you can't do those other jobs. It's you have preferences, right? So if you make your resume that reads more of like, hey, I understand mail carrier and the packaging industry and freight industry, but I really specialize in not only carrying those goods, but also communicating to those people on the phone. Or better yet, I know how to do it in person, because when I drop off the packages, you can talk about your customer service with, the different locations you're doing it at. So, that's where it goes back to, again, the hard skills and soft skills, your tangibles and intangibles. And you want to really hash those out so that it matches up to the job description, so you can show those transferable skills to really, be an asset there. And again, you can be an asset in multiple different spots. There's a lot of people within one organization, they stay in one position for 3-4 years, they move to another position. They like the organization. They like the umbrella of the company. They just want to try different rooms out within that organization to better themselves, right? And obviously better the organization. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, definitely.
We got a question. It says, should you apply to a job where you do not have all the requirements?
You want to at least have the basic. You're going to have the minimum requirements. Those basic minimum requirements is important, especially if it's something that is going to be skilled, certified. If it requires you to have a degree, don't apply if you only have a high school diploma, unless it says in lieu of degree, if that makes sense. They're going to give you they're going to provide you with all of the information when it comes down to the bare minimum. And a lot of times with job descriptions, that's what it's going to be, the bare minimum on it. Make sure you do look at that and you can apply to it. If it's, but you don't want to apply to something that is going to be, like I said before, if it's a truck driver, and you you're doing oil and gas, and all you got is your Class A, you don't have a hazmat. Why are you going to apply for that job? You can't do that. So there are certain positions that you cannot apply for. There's some pharmacies. You want them for our pharmacy techs. You might have. They might say inpatient or outpatient. There's different types, right? So if it specifically says you got to be an inpatient pharmacist, which is going to be our pharmacy tech, that's going to be maybe someone that has that works in a hospital, in a facility, where they're able to do the medication within the hospital setting, because there's different compounds or different things that are in that environment. If you're working at CVS, you don't know nothing about what's going on in that hospital and everything that's going on around there. It's a totally different world. We have, the people that work in nursing homes, and they want to come into the hospital. They might still be a registered nurse, and they might have only worked in the nursing home. It's okay. They're still a registered nurse. You can still try to apply, because we can kind of make that exception. Okay, they don't have that acute care experience that we're asking for, but the job only requires you to be a registered nurse. Our hopes and dreams was for you to have the experience of working in a hospital or acute care setting, but we can make an exception. We can teach you and show you the ropes of working in that hospital, in that acute care setting. Because at the end of the day, you met the basic. You are a nurse. You have your RN, you have your degree, and you have at least 1 year or even no experience, but you got the bare minimum of the requirements. You're going to see preferred experience, and you're going to see must have. If it says must have, then you must have it. It must have means must have. Okay.
Yeah, I think those are all great things. I think the other thing to think about this is kind of reframing the question, right? Should you apply to jobs where you don't have all the requirements? You really only want to apply to jobs where you can make your resume a viable chance for it, right? So you have to look internally too and say, yes, I really want this job, but what is this job asking, and do I have it? And then you have to sit with that, and you have to think, okay, do I have 50% of it? Okay, I'm at 50% is not the best score to kind of go into it, perhaps, right? Do I have 80% of the chance of the documents? Okay, that puts me in a better spot, right? Do I have 70%? Okay, do I have 90%? Or I have 100%, right? But not only do you have the requirements, but again, it's really about showing the hiring manager, whoever it may be on the other side of that, why you are a good fit. I can't stress it enough. You want to show the why, right? Not so much that the it that you have or the thing you have, right? The why, right? That's really going to separate you and put you out there. And that comes out to your bio. That comes out to your notable achievements. Why are you looking for this job? And what can you add? The position is open to add someone. What are you going to add in this new seat, right? You can take up the seat. That's great. But are you going to make it better, right? What are you going to build? What are you going to give us, right? That's how they're looking at it. You have to look at it that way. That's how they're looking at it. What can you provide them, right? And then ultimately, what are you looking to get out of it, right? Career advancement, right? Great colleagues, right? Work-life balance, which is so huge right now. So think about it that way, and maybe reframing it will give you an even better way of looking at it. But thanks for the question. I think it's a great one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of folks that I know that are changing careers, or they're going into their second season in life, and they might be retired. I keep bringing that up. Not everyone is so fortunate to be retired, in their prime. And so, and you're able to start a new career. Making sure that those transferable skills, and you might be able to just kind of want to do not as much as what you did before, but you did something where you've taken the course to where you are able to apply for that job in that next stage of life. So you just want to make sure that you enhance that. Once again, put in that information that recently retired, and then putting in that information and providing that summary so that you are able to be moved to the next step.
I think we have another question here. Do jobs still ask for references? If so, what are the best kind of references to give? I think this is a great question. I think jobs I think it's safe to say all jobs are still looking for references. It's a way for them to kind of see from another vantage point the type of work and person you are. And I can't stress it enough, work and person, you know, they go hand in hand. They really do, right? You want to make sure you're giving references that know you, that will, you know, speak highly of you. But also, again, you want everything to be truthful. You'd be surprised. Somebody says something that's not truthful, it's going to come back around. They're going to find out, right? I don't care how good you hide it. It's going to come out. It's going to come out in your work. It's going to come out in how you interact with people. It's going to come out because someone else is going to apply to that job. It's going to come out, you're on the phone and you're going to say something that someone else said that you don't have, but now you're saying you have it and it's going to come out. They're going to see a text message. They're going to see an email. It's going to come out. It's always better just to be honest, not just in work, but in everything. And we both, and all of us know this, but even in a work setting, you know, it tends to come out when you're not being totally honest. So I can't stress enough, be honest. And for your references, let them know that you're applying for jobs. The last thing you want to do is have these people receiving calls. We get so many spam calls already, just as normal citizens, not even anything special or anything like that. So we want to make sure to like let people know, because you don't want them to not pick up the phone. And now all of a sudden what happens? They call another candidate and that candidate got back quicker than you did, right? And by no fault of your own, right, by not necessarily being available or whatever it may be, now you've hindered someone else, right? So you really want to make sure, hey, look, I know you for great. I know you're looking, you telling me you're looking. Are you putting me down as a reference? You can put me down as a reference. Now I'm on the radar, right? And you also want to report back to them, hey, I got that job. Thank you so much, right? Because why would you ask a favor and not be respectful of the fact this person was looking out and trying to filter their own calls, right? So, you know, lend that respect and you'll get it right back.
And then to kind of piggyback on the reference piece of it, once again, yes, employers do ask for references. There are times where I know that you can be sitting right there in the interview. You finish the interviews, you have references. Be prepared. Be able to provide them the references right then and there. Be prepared at all times to have your references, your professional references. It can be an old supervisor, which is very important to at least have an old supervisor. Or if you can't have two, at least have 2 colleagues or 2 supervisors, but at least have 3 professional references. Have their telephone numbers, their names, and their emails. You don't have to have their personal addresses, but at least have their name, their phone number, and their emails. You have that information before you go into your interview, because there can be, depending on the position that you are applying for, you can be asked for those references at that time. You can be asked for those references on your way home from the interview, because they're potentially, when you walked out their door, I like them. Let me check their references. They're calling you and you driving home. So you want to make sure that you are, that you have those references available before you walk into the door for that interview. And as Julian mentioned, ensure that you are contacting those folks and saying, hey, I use you for a reference. I'm applying to some jobs. So let them know that you are using them for the references and you have their information, so that you are able to provide it to the company that you are interviewing with.
Yeah, I see something in the chat here. It's a nice little success story from the manager. Again, shout out to the manager in the chat. I think they're giving a lot of gems here. They have a chat in here that says, I had one girl apply 3 times and I finally interviewed her and hired her. So persistence is key. As much as we would love to say you're going to apply to one job and you're going to get that one job, we all know it doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. I really wish you apply to one job and you get it and you're done. You're over. You can turn your computer off. You don't have to worry about a resume ever again. It just doesn't work that way. It really doesn't. So, you know, you're going to have to apply to multiple jobs. You're going to have to be okay with hearing no, right? And keep on persisting. If you know that no is coming, right? If you know that you got to apply to multiple jobs to get one, when you get that first no, it shouldn't stop you from keep going because you know the results already. You know, hey, I applied to 5 jobs. I probably need to apply to 5 more, right? Oh, I got a couple interviews. Cool, I got a couple interviews. I mean, I got to get a couple more interviews, right? So that's the mentality you have to have. And I think, again, it wraps up and it ties so closely to what this whole presentation is all about. Getting a job is a job. So do not think, okay, I'm done, wipe my hands of it, it's over. I wish it was that case. It's not. And once you're in the job, guess what? The job keep going. It doesn't stop. So you got to get comfortable being uncomfortable and keep pushing forward.
Yes, definitely. I can't agree more. Finding a job or getting a job is a job, just like you're putting those hours and that time in while you're, getting paid for it. You're investing in yourself. That's very important to invest in yourself. Keep on while you are applying for that job, doing the research, making sure that you are getting the knowledge and the experience, training. There's a lot of different free trainings that are out there, and you need to take the opportunity to get those free training, refreshing your skills. There's some folks that sometimes, they might need to refresh their skills. Contact your local schools, to certain employers, or certain companies, they do have opportunities where you can come in and refresh skills. So there are different opportunities where you are able to kind of get in and connect. But once again, finding a job is a job. You have to put it in those hours that you would do as a paid job. So you just want to make sure that you are putting in the time and the work and investing in yourself until you get that job that you're looking to get. We have any more?
I don't see any other questions. I do see a comment. And honestly, I think we can all empathize with this. It says here that rejection hits different. It really does. But again, you gotta keep pushing. Just remember, from this podcast and from all of us to you, you can do it. You just gotta keep pushing forward, keep pushing forward. All right. If you want to phone a friend, have a friend look at your resume. This isn't just like you against the world. This is a fan affair, right? So that's why we're doing this. That's why you tie in your friends, your family, church, your cousins, whatever it may be, right? And that's why, and I can't stress it enough, going to those career fairs. While you don't know if you're going to get the job or not, you're meeting somebody, right? That rejection definitely is different when you're not meeting anybody and you feel like you're just applying and you don't know who to call, you don't know a face, you don't know anybody there, right? But when you're going in front of these people and you're able to talk to them, you're able to get that business card, you're able to shake their hand, they're able to see that you really want this job, you're really putting your best foot forward. You spent time, you can tell them your story. Hey, you know what? I left work a little bit early today because I'm trying to really progress my career. I took some of my PTO to come here to meet with you specifically. I'm super excited. That is going to make someone's day, and that's going to make your day too, because you're going to be able to connect with a live person, tell them your story. And now that piece of paper, they're not even worried about that. They're more worried about your name. And then they're trying to match that name to the paper because they're like, oh, I know the story already. I've been moved by it. I understand it. That's the biggest thing, right? I understand the story. And I can see a spot in the organization for them. I can see it, right? They told me they're here. Their resume matches. They're following up with me, right? Oh, man, I can see them here. And like the manager in the chat shared, right? And I'm sure we have other managers in the chat too, but one of the managers that came up that shared, hey, look, someone applied 3 times and they finally got that job. So that manager knew a spot was coming. It's just maybe other people were more qualified. Maybe, you used the wrong resume for things. Things happen, but persistency will get you there. It really will.
And not only that, it's kind of brought up something is, there's sometimes where we post positions on our job boards, and at the time it's all fair, it's all game. But then somebody decides they don't want to work in the day and they want to work in the night. guess who's going to get it? Not that person that's outside, that person that's already there. So things do sometimes happen that's not our control. We a lot of organs, we believe in making sure that we hire within, but hey, then that opens up that day shift position that person that, they moved into the night. So it's not always, that you might have not had the experience or you didn't apply quick enough, but it could have been it ended up going to an internal person. So you want to also keep that in mind. It's not personal. And there's people that they move around in the organization all the time, which is something that you want to have an opportunity to do. They might come from a different department and they had cross-trained and they got some experience and they decided they want to go ahead and go into that department. So there are those other things that that we run into as well. So, but just keep that in mind, that those are some of the things that do happen on the back end when a organization is posting positions out there to the community, that there are folks that are on the inside that also are applying to those positions also. The other thing that I wanted to touch base on is Julie and I have our contact information there. If you have an iPhone, I think it works on Android. I'm sorry, I'm not pro-con Android. I know that's like a big, huge thing. No, nothing against anyone, but I think this works for everyone. But if not, LinkedIn, that's our QR code. You can connect with us, reach out to us, add us. If you are, I'm hoping if you are looking for a job, you have a LinkedIn page. If you don't, I want you to start working on that now. I'm sure you have all these other social medias. LinkedIn is just your professional social media page. Everybody who is anybody is on LinkedIn. So make sure.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because like when you say have a professional page, that don't mean have you up there with the outfit you wore Friday and Saturday night to the club. I'm just saying.
That is correct. It is a professional page, because we might have gotten your resume. I know I am guilty of this. I've seen them be like, let me see. And I'm looking to see. And I might go to your social media account and I might look you up there because you put your name. So I know everyone's into changing their names and stuff, but we have access to look and still find you. So you're connected to an email address. We're gonna find you some kind of way. We have amazing access to stuff. That's the tip. So we can find you. So be cautious. But LinkedIn is the professional website where organizations are posting their jobs. All of their leaders, employees, and managers are on there. So when you want to do that research and when you want to find out, sometimes, they're posting their jobs, they're communicating, they're talking, they're saying, hey, they might just put something, I'm hiring. You might not see the job on Indeed. You might not see the job, but guess what? They posted it on LinkedIn, and maybe you are connected to me, but you're not connected to them, but I liked or I shared that, and you see it. And you go and you can reach out to that person. So you want to make sure that you are making your virtual resume on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is just going to be your professional. You're going to put your work experience, that summary that is going to be on your paper resume. You're just putting that in there. And LinkedIn is so savvy now. They're helping you. They're helping you with the spell check words and making sure it looks correct. They're going, okay, next page, to where it's making sure that it's allowing you to be successful. They don't want to see you fail. No one wants to see you fail. It's just you have to put in the work and allow yourself to to go out there and utilize all the resources that are available to you when getting a job.
Yeah, I have to agree. And again, I said this earlier, and I just want to piggyback off this, and I want to definitely let the host be able to chime in as well. But, we all have time for talking about sports and the new movies and all that stuff, which is great. But make time to put your future self in a good spot, right? And that means think about what you're doing now that 5 years from now, yourself will say, you know what, I'm glad I did that. I'm glad I made the LinkedIn. I'm glad I went and met people in person, right? I'm glad that I sat down and I got quiet for a second and understood what did I want to do with my life and my career, right? How do I want to get there? I'm glad I took the 1 hour a week to read and figure out what I need to do to become a truck driver, to become a customer service rep, to work in sales, to, be in the medical field. Right. I'm glad I took that time to know what classes I need to do. So take that time because the other stuff is going to be there for you. Right. But if you're not taking the time to figure out what you want to do with your career and with your time and be constructive, there's other people that are. Right. There's other people that are, and they're taking the time, and you're applying to these jobs and they're taking the time to do it. Right. And if you're just kind of putting stuff to paper and just throwing it out there, the universe has a way of rewarding those that take the time for things, right? So while it might be challenging, put the time in and you will see the results. It might not happen today, it might not happen tomorrow, but what you're doing today will definitely bode to really put you in a good spot 3, 4, 5 years from now. And it just continues to compound and things just get easier. So think about it that way. What can you do today to make tomorrow better?
Yeah. Okay. So were we able to provide the audience with the links that we shared earlier?
Yes, they were in the comments.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Comments, and I'll repost them because I already still had them copied.
Perfect. Well. Perfect.
And then we'll try to put them on our webpage as well.
Perfect. One thing I will note about those is some of them, they do want you to pay for it. Just like anything in this world, they probably want you to pay for it. But again, by going there and just seeing how they are laid out, you can then make a Word document and copy that format, right? So by no means am I saying you have to pay. Again, everyone's trying to make a buck these days. So I don't want you to get suckered in and think, oh, well, I'll just do it. And he didn't tell me. No, it might ask you to pay. Right? If it doesn't ask you to pay today, tomorrow, you never know what could happen. So just use it as a template, truly, to understand the flow you want yours to look like, so that then you can actually create it on the other side in Word, right? You can bold this, you can use the different words, whether you want to have bio instead of summary, whether you want to have work experience or relative work experience, whatever little nuances you like. Look at the different resume templates that are there. Figure out which one makes sense for you and your industry and what you want to portray, and then go ahead and copy it. And that gives you a roadmap. So instead of you having to go find it, you kind of have a place where you can peek at it and kind of, do a little copycat as far as the structure of your resume.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't be afraid to Google, people. The internet, I tell you, is amazing. Everything is there. Everything, there's nothing. The internet is very transparent. You just have to get up and go ahead. You can find any and everything that you need on the internet by just putting in the search text, whatever question, whatever thought that comes in your head, it's going to come up. And the amazing part is it even thinks for you. There's additional things that you probably didn't even think about that can come up and it'll come in there. So if you're having any questions about your resume, interviewing, how you should dress, how to prepare, it's all there. I know it has to be there because there's somebody out there that types something up and it became searchable. So whenever we put anything out there, just like our social medias, it's searchable. So just go on and make sure that you utilize the resources. If you don't have internet at home, everybody has a cell phone. The homeless man on the street has a cell phone. So I know everyone on this YouTube has a cell phone. You have the go ahead and look up the information, and you can look it up using the search engine on your cell phone. But make sure you are taking that time and you are going out. You don't have to pay anyone. Please don't pay anyone to do your resume and to do your stuff. You guys, you make some money before you start spending the money. So make sure you are putting in the work. You do it yourself. Now, if you just got like that, you just don't want to do it and you want to just give some, you by all means, but make sure that you know that information that's being put on that resume, because that person that you paid to do that resume, they made it so beautiful. They use words that you can't even say. They use words that you have no idea what. They took that transferable skill and they put it in there, but you have no idea. So that you're going to interview it and the hiring manager, and you have no idea what is on that resume. So do your own resume. Know your own resume. You can do it yourself. You can do it. And I promise you, it doesn't have to be fancy. I know myself, I'm not going to read all that. I'm not going to read the whole book. Just put all the information that's necessary that's on there. And so that I can go through it, because I have probably 30, 50 more that I need to go through in the next 5 or 10 minutes. And I can't sit there all day and look at your resume with all this stuff in it. I'm not going to bother. I'm going to keep going. But yes, you want to make sure you highlight those skills. Once you got your resume, you're going for, you've applied, you have that interview, make sure you're dressing professionally, make sure you're prepared. And I think you should be successful. So thank you all for joining. Thank you to our host for allowing us to share with your podcast community. We appreciate you. And if there isn't any other questions, I will take it back over to you.
Awesome. Thank y'all. Again, y'all have done an awesome job. This has been very, very informative. I have a lot of notes, and just looking at the feedback as well has been awesome tonight. Even the questions have been great questions. So we thank you for everybody that tuned in tonight and that was active and not being afraid to ask questions, because sometimes in this space, people don't want to feel like they're dumb or don't know stuff. So I definitely thankful to everybody that participated. As Lucretia and Julian stated, their QR codes was up that has their contact information on there. So if you need help, hey, reach out. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Sir, you have anything to say tonight?
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you reach out to them, we charge $19.95. I do you gotta send it to my Cash App. Recruitment fee. But no. As a recently transitioned individual, yeah, it's. I thought it was gonna be a cakewalk. Nah, bro. Nah. No. It's a whole different ball game when it comes to finding a job. Like, it will have you, and I understand why some people react the way they react when they either lose a job or they've been without a job for so long. Now I understand the stress, and that's not even adding in the part of you have responsibilities. That's just like the stress of finding a job, applying, making sure everything lines up, and even though things do line up, crickets.
Yeah.
So it's a very stressful job, but
and the crazy thing is you're retired, and it's not like you didn't have a job or you didn't have a skill. You're just retired. Where you're retiring from and skills that you have. So that's one of the things that it's important of not giving up. And it's not just you. It's not you. Right. It can be stressful.
Right. And like Jillian said, like he was like, don't give up. Don't quit. Because the moment you quit is that one time that that candidate or that person is looking for you. So don't quit. But yeah, this was a good conversation. Well, it wasn't no damn conversation. It was good. A good showing, a good presentation. Because shit, I was burning up my notepad too. I mean, I wasn't as busy, but yeah, burning up and looking at the same time. So we appreciate you. We appreciate the knowledge that you bestowed on us, and that's all I have. I'll turn it over to TK.
All right. You act like you almost forgot my name there for
No,
a minute.
I was gonna say something smart, but I was like, "Nah, I'm gonna let." I'm gonna let it go.
No problem. We're gonna blame it. I'm gonna blame it on the retirement. So yes. So as we close out again, the links are there. We will also post the links on the actual TK's Chronicles of a Black Sheep page, so that y'all have access to them in case y'all couldn't click them in the comments. So on that note, we are out. We will see you next week at the same time. Next week, we actually have Dr. Ken back, since this month is also Women's Health Month. So, we always love to educate and bring very knowledgeable.
Is that the one with the
to this?
Toy?
That's all you remember from that episode?
Man, that's because it tripped me out.
Well,
Dr. Ken.
That out. Thank you.
You're welcome. Dr. Ken, I found her on TikTok, and she came and blessed us tremendously, and she has her own product. So she has a product called WAP Wash, which was actually created for men, but women, of course, are able to use it. So her episode was phenomenal, and she's coming back. So we'll be discussing the wonderful adventures of some of the seasoned women that are going up the mountain of menopause and all that premenopause joy that many of us will be experiencing in life. So we have her coming on to discuss that.
Awesome. I think I might need to be on that one. Thank you.
I think it's only right to. I think it's only right to also say Happy Women's Day as well to Lucretia and TK. It wouldn't be right. TK, thank you for setting this up. Darrell as well, thank you for setting this up. But a double special thank you to TK on this special day, and Lucretia, you already know. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
All right, you all have a good night. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, definitely. Y'all too.
Yeah, what's up with it? Do it cause I love it and I stuck with it. We ain't with the subbing in the cut with it. Please, none of the talks, I heard enough of it. Like, what you gonna do? Where you at?